The members of the congregation drew up formal charges and presented them to the synod officers and the church council, who accepted them as well-founded. After a lengthy investigation by the Iowa Synod and the president of the Northern District, Reverend Lutz was formally asked to resign, not because the charges against him were worthy of dismissal, but for the sake of peace within the congregation, because in their opinion, Pastor Lutz had lost the confidence of a large part of the congregation. Reverend Lutz was given 4 weeks to comply and find a call in another congregation. Refusal to comply would mean he will be suspended from the church and prevented from acting in the ministerial capacity of the Lutheran Church. But the struggle continued for nearly a year. Pastor Lutz refused to vacate the pulpit or hand over church property. Pastor Lutz also claimed that the majority of the people of the congregation had not voted for his resignation, while others insisted that the meeting had been conducted according to the Constitution and was perfectly valid. With few other options, the whole matter was taken to civil court. The congregation as plaintiffs asked for an injunction to restrain Reverend Lutz, the defendant. The court sided with the congregation and issued a temporary injunction preventing Pastor Lutz from holding worship at St. John's. By this time, he had also been suspended by the synod, pending a full investigation. But Pastor Lutz continued to hold services at a chapel on the corner of Jackson and 22nd Streets. Rumor was that steps would now be taken for his excommunication from the church. Reverend Lutz went to court, asking for the injunction to be lifted. After the attorneys finished their arguments, the Honorable Robert Bonson urged the congregation and Reverend Lutz to seek resolution on their own.
This affair should be settled out of court. It is not to the taste of the church-going people to have such a case as this in court. I do not know that it can be settled out of court, but it should be. I am frank to say that there is an intensity of feeling in this case, some for Reverend Lutz and others against him.
In September 1907, Judge Bonson ruled against Reverend Lutz, refusing to remove the temporary writ of injunction that would have allowed him back into the pulpit at St. John's. In February 1908, Lutz gave up the fight.
For the sake of peace and harmony, there has been enough of fighting.
In the final ruling on the matter in November 1908, Judge Bonson decreed that the congregation of St. John's has a right to dismiss Lutz, and did so in a proper manner. He also held Lutz responsible for costs of litigation. His ruling read,
"The temporary restraining order entered herein on June 13, 1907 is hereby made permanent, and it is ordered defendant Henry Lutz is hereby permanently enjoined from exercising any of the powers and faculties of pastor in and upon the said premises of said congregation."
In the end, when Pastor Lutz left St. John's, there was also an exodus of 157 members who departed with him. They left without malice, determined to have their own church. There were 107 charter members. On June 9, 1907, the St. Matthew German Evangelical Lutheran Church was formed in a Methodist church building at 25th and Jackson Streets. The following week, June 16th, the very first services were held.